Okay. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Test.
Hello, test. Is there volume? No.
Nope,
Test.
keep speaking until...
Test.
Yes,
Test.
yes. Check.
Check,
One.
test.
Hello.
You can... Hello.
Oh.
Hi, everybody.
Hello?
Hi, everyone. You guys are a bit
Is there sound?
far.
Does it work?
Sound, yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Check.
If we just wait. Oh, this is
Say
from the other
something,
sound. You're going to
yes.
hear that the whole time.
Say something.
Say something, I'm giving up on you.
Giving up on me?
No, it's not. It's just a song.
Sound? You ready? Good.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me well from there? Oh, yeah. Welcome, everyone, to our workshop on the fifth estate. And I think the title was a bit different, but it was meant to be the fifth estate. So next to the fourth estate, which is often seen as the media, it's the role of the fifth estate. It's the arts, culture, artists, and here musicians that play a role in holding power accountable in very, very many ways. And how do we deal with this if we live in this world that's full of fake news, full of division, but also social media bias, the AI revolution that is coming, rampant disinformation. And we were actually just on our right here, we were talking about that these things are already happening. People, that certain things happened in Malawi, maybe we'll talk about it later, maybe not, that it's easy to interpret in certain ways. And how do you cut through the clutter and know how to deal with that? And what is the role for that for musicians? And we do believe there's a big role for that to play for artists and musicians in general, and that's what we're trying to answer today. Questions such as, what is the role of musicians in this world, in this new world full of misinformation? How do you cut through the noise? How do the artists do that? How do you find that? And could we envision even stronger connections between civil society and artists? And yes, how are we going to do that? There's so many examples from the past. Think of Bob Marley, John Lennon, Rage Against the Machine, System of a Down, all different kind of musicians that have, through their work, through their activism, changed many ways. And can you imagine a Ken Burns documentary without music? Or for the younger generation, can you imagine inspirational videos that might also change their minds without music underneath it? I have the pleasure of recording for JMI, which we'll talk about later, the podcast, which is called The Power of Music. And I interview many musicians, Fate, for example, but also other musicians and people from the NGO world. And we always ask the final question, what is the power of music? And the answers that we've gotten over the years is always beautiful, but there's a few common threads, mental health, community building, but one of them also is to fight oppression, to fight corruption, to move people. And one of the artists, one of the ambassadors that is not here today of Fair Play, which we'll talk about later, Alesh, also said, I use my music to make music for the clubs, but with a message. So that while partying, maybe unconsciously something is happening, and it is happening sometimes. So the best way to actually talk about this, all these powers of music, is to hear from the musicians themselves. So we're joined here today by Malawian one-man band, Fate Musa. Thank you for being here. And Nigerian singer-songwriter, Sil. And besides that, there's the Programs and Marketing Director of JM International, Jeunesse Musicale International, the partner that organizes Fair Play, that is Music Against Corruption, Matt Clark. So we'll pick their brains, and I have good news. We will end with some music, beautiful music, I would say. So stay until the end, and then you can hear some beautiful music. And there will also be quite a bit of room for questions from the audience in the later stage. So if you have some questions, there's room for that. Maybe first, we want to hear from the musicians themselves. Do you remember, or maybe can you share a bit about your journey into music, and also when you realized that your music could have an impact in this way? And maybe before that, I'm sorry that I missed that, we hope, because it was all last minute, there's two other musicians from the Ukrainian punk rock band, the Sixters, who will also be performing on the last day. Anna and Alexander, who will join us hopefully at some point during our discussion. So they might come in and drop in fresh with other perspectives. But first, the musicians. What's your journey into music, and when did you realize your music could offer something or has this power?
Thank you very much. My name is Faith, like Ricardo has said. For me, music was introduced to me by my parents. My parents have always been musicians, and I started doing music on my own as a solo artist when I went to university. That was the time when I was involved in a lot of projects that were dealing with child education. And being a young person, I was producing music, and the music had done very well on the Malawian market. The followership was so big, and I started realizing and understanding the power that the music had. Everywhere I went, people were relating to the things I was singing, the music I was singing. I had written a lot of songs encouraging young people to do school, and that was the time I realized that music had gone to places that I physically had never been. And I realized and I saw the power of music having no borders. Music could penetrate through war. A war could go through countries, places where the musician himself has never been. That's when I started understanding the power of music. Music could go to places, homes, to people's homes, the homes that I could never physically go. So what if this music carried message that would change people's lives, that would change the way people think, that would change the way, if the music was helping them understand about education, I realized that it could do the same if I was speaking against corruption. So for me, I looked at music as a borderless medium of carrying a message. That was the turnaround for me.
Thank you. And for you, Sil?
Yeah, for me, my journey is a bit different because I set out in the corporate world. I trained originally as a lawyer, and after law school, I volunteered in an organization that focused on youth development and elections, constitution reform, and it was very eye-opening for me. Back in uni, I used to sing. For me, it was just like a side, like a hobby that I never really took seriously. But fast forward, being in the corporate world, I began to become more and more restless. I would go to work. I would go to work late because I'm writing a song or trying to finish a song. And my colleagues will always say, when are you going to actually give this passion your attention? And because of my volunteering activity in the organization prior to working in this place I was working, I was looking for a way to merge my passion in music and my passion in advocacy. So eventually I left the 9-to-5 job, which was like a big deal. Everybody around me was like upset because it was really a really good job. And then I quit that and I started my musical journey back in 2017. And I just wanted a way to marry those two things that I really was passionate about, which was advocacy and music. And I found it, eventually. So that's my journey in a nutshell.
Thank you. And Matt, maybe you can share a little bit about Fair Play, what it is, how it originated.
Yeah, sure, gladly. So I don't know, does everyone here know about Fair Play? Has everyone been to the ICC before? Have you enjoyed a Fair Play concert? I hope so. I see some nodding, so that's great. So I think it was around 2010 that we first started Fair Play, at that time with the World Bank Institute, when there still was a World Bank Institute, who had been running a letter writing competition and wondering why young people were not engaging. And we had been doing a lot of, the organization I work for is called Jeunesse Musicale International. It's a global network of youth in music. And we spoke to some colleagues at the World Bank and we said, well, we think music could be a tool to reach more people than letter writing. And they said, great, make a proposal. So we made a proposal to create a competition where we would identify activist artists who've got a message, who've got something to say, and then create a platform for them. That platform came in various forms. One of those forms in 2012 in Brazil became the IECC. So Brazil 2012 was the first time that we brought Fair Play artists to perform at the IECC. After that, we did follow-up in Panama, in Costa Rica, in Denmark. We've done a few iterations. In the beginning, it was a bit of a bumpy road. Not everyone, the ICC typically was quite formal. It still is quite formal in many regards. But the ICC team and we thought that we we need to bring this issue, this theme that's being brought to these cities, to the people of the cities, to the young people in specific of these cities. So music would be that conduit for us, that we could create a public-facing element of the conference, that we could give a platform for fantastic artists who've got a message to perform, to celebrate, because there is so much fighting here, there's so much struggle and hardship that we also said we need to create a moment of lightness to also celebrate this work that's being done, celebrate the people involved in the fight against corruption with artists who are involved in the fight against corruption. So that's kind of how it started. We didn't have too many big dreams, but as the years passed, we saw that we started to form this network of activist artists. Faith, for example, joined us in 2018 in Denmark and has gone on to now collaborate with Shanti Power. He was just in Rome performing for 7,000 people at Forte Pristino on the 1st of May celebrations. Sil won, unfortunately, during Corona, so had to do an online performance then. Yeah. But now we've managed for the first time to bring her to the IACC, so it's a very special moment. We're very happy to have Sil with us finally. And now Sil and Faith have met for the first time. So you can imagine in a year or two, maybe Faith will be traveling in Nigeria and performing with Sil, or Sil will be in India, because Rain and Sahara, for example, who are our winners from in 2018 from India, they have now collaborated with the Hornbill Festival to bring an anti-corruption element into that big festival in Nagaland, in India. So we see all these multiplying effects that have started to grow. There's many stories. I'll just tell one more to illustrate the kind of organic journey that happens when you start working honestly with musicians. Naseman from Liberia, maybe some of you have met Naseman. He's a very big anti-corruption advocate in his country, using music to fight corruption. Released multiple tracks, being threatened by the state, by police. He's really a very engaged activist and musician. But he's also quite chaotic. And when Naseman first came to Panama, we asked him for his technical rider. What do you need for on the stage? What do you need for backstage? He said, I need a Hummer. I need to be picked up in this car. I need first class flights, all of this. My colleague wrote to me, Naseman needs all these things. And I said, don't worry, just tell Naseman this is what it is. Would he like to accept? Immediately, yes. When I met him at the Hard Rock Hotel in Panama, I said, Naseman, what was this technical rider? He said, nobody ever asked me for a technical rider before. I just Googled technical rider. I found Snoop Dogg's technical rider, and I sent it. So from there, Naseman's gone on to now form his own non-profit organization in Liberia, registered it. He's been doing school workshops, working with young people and music. He's collaborating now with a big energy provider to work on anti-corruption efforts there. So from not knowing what a technical writer is to founding a non-profit, this is a huge journey that's been supported by us. I think we've got some friends. Welcome to the Sixters. I think one or two will join us. We can get some microphones. So whoever will join us for the chat, feel free to get mic'd up in the back and join us on stage. But I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there for now. Yeah, back to you, Ricardo.
Great story, thank you. Maybe, because we've been dancing around this already, this term corruption, it's been mentioned several times, music against corruption, fair play. But I'm curious, what does corruption mean within your individual context, and how do you try to make a difference in that specific context? I know that, for example, Alesh, who I mentioned before, was from the Democratic Republic of Congo. He is fighting many levels. One of them is actually that a big beer brand, which is actually European, has a European main office, is using his music without paying, and he's fighting that for many, many years, to have to travel all the way through the whole country because they try to sue him everywhere where he cannot go. And he said, if I go into the studio, every time I go into the studio, it's time away from my daughter. And other musicians go into the studio, it's also time away from their families. So if I don't fight, against this incredible corrupt as well element that we get paid for our music, if they use it and I don't fight for it, no one gets paid. So I said, now I have to again spend time away from my daughter, but but I do it because I believe that then we make a better society in the end. But of course, there's many different aspects of corruption. So maybe in your individual context, what does that mean, and how is your music related to that? I know you wrote a song specifically fighting that.
For me, in my country, Malawi, we have had so many corruption scandals, like big corruption scandals that have affected our development, affected our education system, and I think there was a time that I specifically wrote a song soon after a corruption scandal that had affected so many government officials, and it was a very sad time. So for me, as a young person with so many dreams, I'm seeing where the country is coming from, with so many dreams of where I want to go, where I would like to be, where I want to see myself flourishing. It was very painful because I felt like someone is robbing me and robbing other young people of a beautiful future. So the journey for me to start writing music was like, I can't let this happen. I know what music does. Music will live even after I'm gone. So I'm going to use this music. I'm going to write this music without fearing, because that's another thing. In a country like mine, if you produce a song that is speaking against the authorities, they're simply just going to ban it. No more radio play, no video play. So I got to release this beautiful song. A lot of people loved it, but the state broadcasters refused to play the song. So I had been making a lot of airwaves with other music, but when it comes to these songs, they could block them. So we had to find alternatives. We switched to social media. So social media, everything went smoothly. So people could consume the music, people could listen to the music. So the journey has always been, you're fighting against corruption, but you're also fighting against the authorities that are in power at that time, because sometimes they just don't want you to speak against them. Even if they know what you're saying is true, they just don't want you to speak against them because it speaks about their credibility in some areas. So the journey has been like that. Secondly, as an advocate, I'm a teacher by profession. My first degree, I did education. So I have great contact with young people. And my music was also appealing to a lot of young people. I felt that was one of my areas of concern. So if the young people can learn to change their mindset and the way they look at things, the way they look at governance, the way they look at leadership, the way they respect the law, the way they also just keep away from corruption, those are going to be the people to work with at the beginning, because they will grow with those values. So I decided to also take an initiative to do. We have school visits that we do. We do a concert in a school. We talk to them about corruption. We talk to them. We engage them, hear the young people, hear how corruption is affecting them and how they feel they can deal with it, because beautiful ideas come out of them. So those are some of the things that I've been doing with my music and my presence in my country. But it has been a fight. It has always been a fight. If you release something that the government doesn't like, you are going to have to also make sure that you are finding ways of getting it out there other than using.
And I hope this song, we will hear it. Again, I will repeat for people that came. If you stay until the end, there will be beautiful music. And I do think the message that the one thing in your song, I told you also in the car, that really grips me is where you say, you describe the beauty of your country, Malawi, and then say, but now it feels like an immigration, but from heaven to hell. Did that song in the end make it onto the radio, or was it forever banned?
Well, when it was released, it was banned from the radio. But now it's playing on the radio because...
hey guys.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. There's so many private radio stations who are also very keen to see positive social change. So even if I lose radio play in one or two government stations, the music is still out there through private stations. So it did make it. Yeah. And there's a reason why I wrote that line, because I will always say life was kind of very beautiful when I was younger than now, but things should not be like that. We're supposed to be developing for the better, not going the other way around. That's why I say it feels like an immigration, but from heaven to hell.
Beautiful. Yeah. Maybe one last question before I go to you.
Okay.
Was there a moment when you were engaging with these young people, or do you have a story, something you remember, a memory, where you're like, yeah, this is what I'm trying to reach. Mm-hmm. This is where I have this impact, when you were reaching the young people?
Yes, like I said that I'm a teacher by profession. The first time that I think I had a good conversation with a group of young people from a high school, they complained to me how one of the school authorities had mismanaged school funds, and the money was supposed to be used to buy sports equipment for them. And when that happened, I think the school tried to cover up to prevent them from demonstrating and stuff like that. But it was a very terrible thing to hear this young person speaking, because you might look at it as just sports equipment, but on a broader scale, this is a big thing. They felt that someone had robbed them of their rights, something they really looked forward to. And to think that someone was okay with it, to me, I felt the impact of corruption. And they felt the pain as well. And when I was talking about corruption on a government level or on any other level, I also want to look at this issue as serious as it can be at any level, because it's the effect that matters, you know. So yeah, there has been lots of stories like that, and also lots of success stories too. Some people have managed to speak against corruption and really get positive results out of it.
Thank you.
Yes.
And thank you so much for joining us. It's a bit of a bumpy ride, you know, planes coming in. Maybe give them first an applause, as we did for all of the artists
Hello.
from the Sixers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. We are also very great to see you guys here.
Yeah,
Nice.
we're really happy to be here.
Thank you.
Great. Because we asked before you came to the other artists, what has been maybe your journey into music? And do you remember when was the first time you felt your music could have an impact in the world?
Well, I would say from the very beginning, once we started like the band, we were really like feeling that we want to not only like write music about just simple things, but we want to have like influence on the people with our music. We want to reach out people's souls, and
Yeah, we just wanted to inspire
to inspire
other people,
motivate.
people our age as well. It was like a big aim of ours. Yeah, really from the very start. And yeah, it's the thing that we're continuing
and developing.
and developing, yeah, every day.
Yeah, we are growing, and our music is growing, as well as our lyrics, as well as our music and the things that we are going through, and what we are trying to say afterwards with our music and lyrics.
And if you say like you're trying to inspire young people, what do you try to inspire? What do you hope to reach?
I think we want young people to be really motivated, to believe in themselves, because it's really important to go forward when everybody tells you, you can do it. Like, it happened to us as well,
Yep.
many times, and that's why we decided, no, it's a really bad thing, you know, in the world happening, and yeah, we want to solve it.
Awesome.
And do you remember maybe one of the first times where you felt like you reached some people, or someone came to you and said like, hey, you really inspired me to do something?
Yeah, I would say there was like one song after which a fan of ours really wrote us a feedback that it helped him. It was with the song Happiness. A fan of ours wrote to us like, guys, your music and the way you wrote the song, the way the lyrics was written, like it just inspired me not to give up and continue following whatever like my goals, my life, despite of any troubles and problems that I had with health, with work, like these issues. I just didn't give up, thanks to your song, which I listened to like on repeat.
Yeah, and also like almost every show we get some kids coming up to us, and you know, it's like it's such a wholesome thing when you see some little people coming to you and saying like, oh my God, you're so cool, you have inspired us. We have actually a lot of kids who are like, you know, the parents are sending us the videos, how they're falling asleep to our songs, and also how they are dancing, how they're listening to our songs at school.
How
for
they are picking
example.
up playing instruments after they heard us.
Yeah, it's such an inspiring thing, and you know, for the girls especially, when you see a little girl doing her life the way that we wanted to do always and that we do right now, it's like wow,
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's also inspiring us as well.
of course.
That's beautiful. Thank
It's like double inspiration.
Yeah,
So it's a feedback.
yeah.
Feedback, exactly.
Wonderful. Maybe back to
Yeah, maybe just to build on that quickly, because I think that there's been a lot of presentations, a lot of talks about the power of storytelling. I'm sure everyone here has watched a TED talk about the power of storytelling. And I think that the more I'm involved in this project and other similar projects, musicians are fundamentally storytellers, and the power of a musical story, it's so much deeper than just a plain narrative. This is music, like Faith was saying, that people are, they're not necessarily going to a concert to consume the story. They're maybe in their bedroom. They're maybe going through a difficult time. They're maybe going through puberty. They're maybe going through trauma. They're maybe going through who knows. And music, it's always there as something that gives us a kind of guidance through those moments. And especially as we're focused on young people, as young people develop their personal narratives, their sense of ethos, their sense of self-worth, to have then artists like this who are just creating beautiful music. It has a message, but the music, it stands by itself. I think that's the most important thing, that they're making just great music. If you don't make great music, you can put all the messages you want in it. Bon chance. But if you make great music that touches people, and even if you maybe don't communicate the message in every song, if you have a message as a band, you see all of these people are engaged, they're active people. So then as fans start to, who's that band? I want to know more about Sil, oh, she has a background in law, and then that inspires. And then maybe a young girl in Nigeria says, wow, okay, Sil did that. Maybe I can also, I'm not really a musician, but that intrigues me a lot. So there are so many ways that music has these kind of ripple effects. And I think in terms of that creating narratives that we need in this time to guide us in a better direction, I think this is really powerful. So yeah, it's...
Thank you. Thank you. So maybe to continue on the topic more of corruption, what does that mean for your specific context, and what do you hope your music accomplishes in that?
I would say in my country, it's majorly the issue of lack of accountability on the part of our leaders. And I say that because it trickles down to everything, right? So, for example, we had one of the biggest protests in 2020 as a result of police brutality, which ended up really, really badly. Like, till date, they haven't taken any account, nobody has come out to say they were responsible for the shooting of innocent protesters. And that is so painful, because we've come from a place where young people were not interested in participating, and then somehow creatives, musicians came together and galvanized people and made people come out to ask government to be accountable. And then all of a sudden, it's like we went from being very high up there to zero. Like everybody's disappointed, nobody's taking accountability for it. And so it's just that lack of accountability that trickles down in everything. And then it's almost like young people are taken as a joke. So you're asking the government a simple question: how did this happen? Why are we here? And they just joke about it. So it's actually very painful to see, because a lot of us take our country seriously. I take Nigeria very seriously. So it's painful to watch. But one of the things that I try to do with my music, I remember the first song that I ever released, Sound the Alarm, was a song that was inspired from my work in elections. I just saw how that there was a lot of community corruption. You find underage voting just because one community wants to outshine the other. And a lot of people were not... The reason why those kinds of things thrived was because a lot of people were not interested in coming out to even vote. So you'd find that the people who should go out to vote are in their houses because they're not interested. So for me, I wanted to encourage people to come out and not just vote, to stand and defend their votes, because if you're not there, then a lot of things can go wrong. The politicians will tell you that your votes don't count because they don't want you to. go out to vote, but your votes really count. So those were the conversations that we tried to have, both in the music and also in town hall meetings. And I'm so happy that the last elections we saw a lot of change in the way people were eager to participate and be and ask questions like why are the results not adding up? Why didn't the electoral body live up to their promises? People are asking these questions, and it's far from where we were before, and it's really encouraging to see. It's a long way, we have a long way to go, but at least we're taking these steps, and it's very encouraging.
And maybe this also funnels into another question that we also cannot avoid. It's kind of the other side of this story is also the artistic freedom and the dangers that artists face when speaking out.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's still, there's ample examples yearly from artists, getting death penalties ranging from Myanmar to Iran, but also to Nigeria, mostly for religious context. But and of course, there's torn regions where artists also struggle and die as civilians, as casualties, or as taking part in these protests. One of the last interviews for the podcast was with an organization that organizes music projects in Gaza, where all the music schools, all the projects are gone. They're all bombed. And, then that's maybe the time when you need music the most, but it's also the hardest. Can you comment a bit on that aspect, Matt?
Yeah, I think that there is a very important organization, if anyone's working with artistic freedom, called Free Muse. They're based in Denmark. They specialize in this kind of work, and they release an annual report. And in the latest 2023 report, it's clear that musicians are the most discriminated against, the most persecuted group of artists out of all the other art forms. And I think it's because of the power of music as well. And music has such a broad reach and very, very vocal. We saw recently now with the case in Iran, you mentioned of this young hip-hop artist who was sentenced to death. But indeed, we see a lot of, and I'll call on my colleagues to maybe give clarity on how it is in their country for them to speak up. But we see a lot of censorship rising worldwide. We see with the rise in right-wing governments worldwide, there's a lot more censorship. It's very difficult. One of our artists at the moment in Colombia is currently under house arrest. He was just traveling and the police planted drugs in his car, arrested him, and he was very vocal against the government, against a lot of the corporations, and now he's been silenced. So, of course, he's very strong. He knows Jota quite well from Hage Que Pase. So he will continue, but his life has been threatened, and a lot of musicians naturally stop making music. That's then critical. So we see this when civil society, when governments don't ensure a safe space for musicians, it's not just threats, let's say. There is really real consequences for a lot of these artists. So I would say from when we started with this project in 2010, we've definitely seen less and less musicians getting involved in social issues, getting vocal. There's a lot of self-censorship. A lot of the musicians who we've spoken to speak about self-censorship, that maybe there's not implicit government banning of your songs or things like that, but they know that if they speak out against it, that they might be that they might not be able to get a job, or their family might be seen as negatively. So there is unfortunately, I don't think it's getting better. I think it's really the time for us as civil society, as government, to work to protect this space for all artists, not only musicians, all artists, because if we don't create this space for artists, then it's really getting dark for all of us, because artists are always that guiding light. They're the ones who shine that light for us to see past the dark times that we're in. So if that light is not able to shine, then we've got a problem. So I encourage all of us, and we will do our part to keep letting these lights shine. But I'd be interested to hear how you guys feel it as artists in your country.
Well, I would say for me, it's a part of what you've said, like censorship. Sometimes because people are afraid to speak up, because most of the times you are protecting your music brand as well. So you are thinking, okay, so I shouldn't let my music brand die? How will people hear my music in the end? So sometimes self-censorship comes in and then you're just toned down, but you know exactly what you need to say. But sometimes you're courageous enough to say, okay, I don't care. I'm going to say the truth. I'm going to say it as it is. Then you have to be prepared, be also personally, just prepare yourself, protect yourself, get in touch. I was fortunate that I got contacts of free muse from the interaction I've had. So at least I have somewhere I can write to if something like that happens. But it's not the case with everybody. Another thing is it makes the messaging now change because people are thinking, oh, let me not say it that way. Or because the messaging is okay until you speak against them. It's good music until it's against them. So you might have a group of people supporting you, but wait until the same people gets into power. The same music they were supporting, they'll silence it because suddenly it's speaking against them. So it's a matter of courage on our part, but it's still scary as a person. So you still have to tread carefully. So that's what I would say. As for me, my country, it has just been because the major media companies are state-run. So if the government doesn't like what you're saying, your music is not going to be there. Whatever it is not going to be there. So we take up our minds and use alternative sources. And just word of mouth, lots of concerts. Yeah.
I think it's pretty much the same in Nigeria. We've had a situation where the government banned Twitter, completely, because a lot of the activities and activism came from that source. So they felt like the only way they could control the narrative and push it towards their own narrative was to completely ban it. So communication was shut down via Twitter. It was really, really dark. It was really, because literally that's how young people communicate. And because, as musicians, as artists, you have a large following on these platforms, and all of a sudden someone just shuts your voice, and it's not like you are saying something that is not true. So, and we also have situations where there is some sort of censoring where the truth is now flagged as a lie. Like you are trying to say something and then the next thing you see is facts, I don't know who they are. They just flag it and say it's a lie. No, but you don't know who is behind it. There is no room for any form of conversation. It's just flagged. It's really difficult to be an artist and be creative in such a system. And so we've had one of the people who spearheaded the NSAS protests had to leave the country. She just left because her life was in danger. Her life was threatened. And so everybody's trying to be careful. That's where the self-censoring is now. You're now looking for a balance where you're trying not to lose your voice in the process of having a voice. So it's often like an enigma of some sort. But I think for me, what I do every now and then is I don't ever want to get to the point where I want to give up. If necessary, I take breaks and come back to the thing that I was doing instead of just completely leaving it fallow. I would take breaks, regroup, and have the conversations with myself, with my team, and then we come back again another time and hope that this time is better. I'm also part of an organization that helps. We're called Music for Democracy Network. We help each other in situations like this. It's an organization that is based in Africa. And so we just raise awareness when there is some sort of arrest or someone's freedom of expression is being threatened. And it's been helpful sometimes. There are times when it's tricky because you don't want to encroach on another country's sovereignty. Every country is sovereign. But it's been helpful in the way that they raise awareness, and then once people start talking about the issue of the infringement of the freedom of expression, then the government starts to see that what they're doing is wrong, and then they will try to pander to it. But really, the real question I ask every time is, are they really changing? Are these people in authority really changing, or they're just trying to be politically correct at every point in time? So it's a very, very, very long conversation, but I'm always looking at the brighter sides, just so I don't give up.
And in the report that mentioned earlier, they gave various reasons why artistic freedom is under pressure. Like regime change, as you said, it has a big role in certain ways. There's religious motives. There's other things. But one of the elements also is war and invasions of countries. Maybe could you share a little bit about how the situation in Ukraine has impacted your way, how you create music?
Yeah, so it's basically really, really impacted the way we have started writing the music. Like again, we have started from the scratch.
Exactly, yeah,
from the very beginning.
Because we had to flee our country, and again, we decided to gather here in Europe in order to continue doing our art. Because no matter what, we stay together, and why not to just start again, everything from the very scratch, and just when you have the belief in yourself and in what you are doing, then
And I think, the most important thing is like the message you're trying to give to the people and like the people who are surrounding you, because we have a really, really cool, really sane fan base, like really like one of the most wonderful people from all around the globe.
Who basically helped us to gather ourselves here in Europe.
Yeah, to rebuild our band, like literally, because we haven't seen us like in 6 months or so, and then we have met again, but we still had this belief that we will go forward.
Yeah.
We won't stop no matter what. It's just like, our music is like the freight train of what we do and what we believe in, and like everything.
And that's probably what led us to this change in our music and the way we also present the music and the way we write it. Because, as already told before, like we grown up and we relived like some life moments. We went through these life moments, and that's what also had a great impact on us. As a people, as a human being, that's what really had a great impact.
Yeah, this kind of experience, it's the thing that influences you from till your last moment. So you won't ever forget it. But if you have the will to change it, if you have the will to build something from it, if you have the will to rebuild it again, then you can make it. That's actually what we have done. It was tough, but we have managed it just by the way that we have been like together, and we never parted. We are like always close-minded. We're always standing up for the team, not like for some individuals out there, but just like for the team,
for the family, like
for the family. Yeah, we're like sisters, 6 sisters. So it's
family.
So it's not literally, but almost.
Thank you so much. So also there's something you gain some strength from the experience even to continue and remain hopeful.
Exactly. Such experience just give you more strength, like to survive and in this life. Yeah.
Thanks for that inspiration. Faith, you have been already Fair Play ambassador since 2018.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that journey itself and what it has meant to you?
It has been a very beautiful experience. As an artist, I have grown so much from the interaction that I've had. The platform has exposed me to different types of music, different types of thinking, different types of doing things and collaborations. The music growth itself, apart from just the messaging, but as an artist, it has impacted on my growth a lot. I've met people that are coming from different musical backgrounds. I've met fellow artists from Africa, but I've met them outside Africa, and people who have got the same thinking like I do, who love their countries like I do, people who have got a heart for a corrupt, free society like I do. And that has helped me a lot, also even in the way I have approached my work as someone who's speaking against corruption, because I get to hear what other artists are going through in their countries, how they have fought the fights that they are fighting, how they have gone through some problems. That has also helped me to to understand how I can go and deal with issues that I was going through in my country. Because you will know that some of the things are the same. We're dealing with the same evil here. And sometimes it's good to learn from how other people are working, how other people are doing things. And on top of that, I've also managed to travel to meet other artists in their respective countries. I went to meet Shanti Boy in Italy. I got to see the things that they were speaking about when they're singing against corruption. I got to experience it and see what they are doing. And it helps me as an artist also to being well informed, be well prepared, and take steps ahead of the fight that I have back home. Yeah.
Thank you. And Matt, so here, Friday, right? We have the concert. What time and where is it? It's good to keep mentioning that.
Yeah, so you see all the posters around. Friday is the big concert. We hope everyone will be there. You can just scan the QR code and register at the Lukishka's prison. It's a great venue here. We promise not to lock anyone up. Even if you have done bad things, you just come and enjoy. No problem. But we will encourage you to do good things. We have, of course, these lovely bands performing. It's going to be really great. And we have AKD, a local band, performing. We have first the Accidental President. And, you know, this is really important for us. And I think it's really important for us to also have the support of the IECC. Like I said, it's not really easy to talk about issues around corruption, to make issues around corruption accessible for the people. The people of Vilnius, maybe they've seen that something's happened, but it's not tangible what's happening here for average people. And I think this is what we can do with music, is translate some of this feeling, maybe not all the nuances, but at least the feeling of what is happening here, and we can get people engaged in this, because I think this is what you've seen here. This is a real engagement in these issues, not just we need the political level, it's very important, but unless you have the society engaged, it's difficult to work at that political level. So I think this is really a critical part of an event like this, to have a visible outward-facing event. So yeah, voila, that's my quick promotion for the event. The most important is going to be fun. That's always the most important. And while we're having fun, we connect with each other, we learn from each other, and when we learn and understand from each other, we can help each other in the different fights we are doing. We can be there for each other. When we don't know each other, that's when, okay, nothing happened.
So there's this, every 2 years we have this amazing party with amazing artists. What is Fairplay doing locally?
Yeah, so this is the main point of focus of what we're doing. But as Faith mentioned now, there's a lot of organic things that happen then as a consequence of these meetings that we then try and support to whatever capacity that we can support it. So, for example, Rain and Sahara from India, Symphony from Indonesia, Faith has done it, Nasiman's done it. They've all gone after this, been inspired to go and do school workshops. So singer-songwriting workshops in schools, art workshops in schools, getting kids to start making art, songs, paintings, drawings around these kind of issues. So this has been one of the components. And then the other one has just been touring, to organize tours, co-tours like we did now in Italy. We have the Hornbill Festival in India at the end of the year. So making sure that we connect these artists together and we can then sell that concept to festivals. We're not selling the artists as themselves, we're selling fair play. You can support the good fight by engaging these artists. They are coming, they are great artists, and they will come with a message. So there are a lot of festivals that are looking for this component, that have a message behind their festival. So by bringing artists who are socially engaged, who are working in this network, they know that this is going to have a bigger impact for them. It creates a story around their festival. So this has been growing really a lot. We've also had several collaborations on tracks. Faith just created a song called Opportunity that's going to come out soon, I think in a month, with Rain and Sahara. Nasiman and Rain and Sahara created Gangsta Bankers. We've got a lot of collaborations that happen. I'm sure these guys are all going to collaborate after this experience. So this is really important. And this is really, I really thank the IECC team for believing in this project, because they really believe in it, and it really has very, very, intrinsic outputs afterwards, that by bringing artists together who are in this fight, you create a series of ripple effects that are not here and now immediate. It's sometimes difficult to measure the impact of such an encounter. You only see it in years to come. That's why I've said now, for me, seeing 10 years back, I now start to see the impact. We start to count the numbers of concerts, how many times they've performed these songs, these messages for different audiences, how many fans they have, how they build fan gatherings over time. So, for example, this Bruce Ami from Colombia, Yusra Al-Hawari from Egypt, these are now big artists, becoming big artists in their countries. They have big followings, So as they grow, these experiences that they have when they are young in their careers, the support networks that they create, these followers. So as they grow as artists, they can also support their fellow artists, because as you become bigger as an artist, you don't maybe then need the civil society to support you in everything. You just are doing it from the love and the passion. So these things then grow in the way that they should, without having, to always have support from civil society or from government, stuff like that. That happens organically, and then that can grow much faster than anything that we can facilitate. So this here is a kind of incubator, putting some fast grow fertilizer on these creative minds. But then what they create together, what they grow into, this is the message. This is the real impact. And it's like marketing. If anyone has worked in marketing here, it's really difficult to know if your marketing campaign worked. It's very difficult to measure. But at the end of the day, you're growing brand recognition, your message is getting out there, and you have to come from multiple angles before somebody makes a decision, a purchase decision in the case of marketing. But in our decision, it's often just the decision to do the right thing. So maybe if they come to the concert on Friday, they won't make the right decision the next time. But then they hear Sil's song on the radio and they say, oh yeah, I remember I saw that, Gil. And then they see the Sixers performing in Germany and they say, wow, okay, this is really good. And then they hear something from Transparency International, the latest report, and it starts building up a consciousness around the fight against corruption, that it's not only being fought behind closed walls here by people in suits, that it's something that we can all get involved in, that we were all a part of. So I think it's really a long-term thing, and we as humans are typically terrible at long-term thinking, but I encourage us all to invest in artists. They are the future for sure, and we will see it in years to come when we're old and looking back, and we will be smiling that we changed the world.
I think this is a good moment to open also the floor to questions from the audience. It's not every day you can actually ask a question to musicians that are making a difference. So maybe use this opportunity. Are there any questions from the audience? Yes, please. Is there going to be a microphone or? Yes.
Yeah, I think we've got some handholds.
Yeah, here in the front.
Thanks. Thank you so much. My name is Zugiswa, and I work in civil society. And my question really is about, one, just wanted to say I really appreciate your inputs around the solidarity that comes with making music in difficult contexts. And I wondered from each of, anyone, all of you can answer this, but I was very curious to know, do you have support from other civic actors outside of the music world and outside of your immediate kind of community, whether it's civil society organizations that are focused on advocacy or those that are about public interest litigation? Just based on this idea, many civic actors like to have an accountability ecosystem, but very often we only think about other civic organizations and not so much musicians. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'd say I have had a good amount of support, but not within my country, right? Now I am getting that support from, I guess, they've seen me travel and getting opportunities outside of the country, and they're like, oh, what is she doing? I remember 2 months ago, there's an organization based in Nigeria that I have known for a long time. Like, I have even worked with them. The same organization I volunteered with, and I would have expected that if they were doing work similar to what I do, they would reach out. But for the longest time, they didn't. Up until now that I am doing these works here and there, now they are recognizing it. So I would say it's slow, and sometimes I understand the hesitance. It comes from a place of not understanding impact, because most times when we sit in a room, they're always asking this one question: how do you measure the impact of your work? You know, it's quite a difficult question to answer, to be honest. But I know that my work is impactful. Whether I can map it out and do Venn diagrams and all of that is another conversation entirely. So, but they're seeing it now. They're seeing it. It's tangible. I remember there was a project I was part of in 2019, and it was called the Voice to Rep project. Just 10 artists brought together to, just like something similar to this, but it was to create a body of work. And I remember that we were 10, and I remember sitting in a meeting where one of the members of that organization was saying that they were reviewing the work that we did over a period of 3 years, and it was just literally my work that continued. So over a period of 3 years, it's been 30 artists. And while they were talking to their donor was so happy because they understood how difficult it is, especially in my terrain. You would almost not have any form of support because people want to dance, they want to be entertained. So doing this kind of music, you just really have to be passionate about it. But I was so encouraged by the statement to say, even if it was just one artist that continued the work, they were excited, it was progress for them because they knew how, in the context of the Nigerian terrain, how it was difficult for, to keep going. So I would say, I think I have had that support and I appreciate it because I know the challenges, and I also know that pushing music is not very easy. So they will want to invest in something that is almost like a business venture where you want to see the benefits back. But half the time it doesn't happen like that because people really don't want to hear you tell them the things they don't like. So, but yeah, I appreciate the support that I've gotten, and I think that I've gotten a good amount of support. It can be better, but it's good so far.
Oh, great.
What we can tell from our side is that once we came to Germany, we not only received the help and the support from our fans and from our fellow musicians, but also from the authorities in the city where we were living, who also helped us to find the apartments, to just, to get into the atmosphere of Germany itself. And they also organized for us concerts where we could perform and say our message to people. Yeah, in support of our country, for example, and we did lots of concerts according to that. And that was something really phenomenal that helped us also to prosper in this country, to start sharing our music, not only with the people from our country, from our society, but also to say words in a new country, but we were very welcome. And that was just amazing.
Wonderful.
Great. I think I'm just going to concur with Sil, and I will say I have seen that there's been support, but again, many organizations, they don't just support if it's not related to their work. So there has to be something that you're doing that's related to what they are doing somehow. As an artist, I feel like I've worked with so many organizations in Malawi, not necessarily local NGOs, but international NGOs that are working in Malawi. They're interested in the people that are following you. So there are a lot of young people, and they're working with young people. I have been an ambassador for World Vision, for Oxfam, because they had projects that were dealing with violence against women and girls. I had written music towards that, so they wanted to work with me because of that. But most of the times, they want to see first what you are doing, rather than just supporting something they are not sure about and then seeing the results. So they want to see what you're doing. Oh, you wrote a song about speaking against violence, so they have a project, then they support it. But not just out of the blues. That has not been the case. Most of the times they want to see first what are you doing? How does it benefit what we are doing? Then they support it.
Yeah, I think just from my side, because I'm kind of in between the artistic side and the civil society, I work for a large global nonprofit. I think where I see a lot of civil society fail is that they fail to see the world from the eyes of the artists. Sometimes people are so caught up in that bureaucratic donor world that they lose touch with reality completely. And the point why we are doing this is to reach people. The only way we can reach people with the message is that their art succeeds. So you need to invest in them as artists. They're not a pawn to just put your message how you want to say it. I said before, I hope no one here is from the World Bank Institute. If you are, I'm sorry. But we had in Kenya in 2011, I think we had this group. I cannot remember where they're from. I won't say who they were, but it was the most cheesy corruption is bad song ever. Everyone in the whole jury, all the artists in the jury said, no way, this is terrible. But for the World Bank people, it checked all their boxes. Every box, they said, this is the best music ever. And if you don't take them, how much budget did you want? It was said in polite terms, but okay, we are here between friends and hopefully not live streaming. But we try. It was not their fault. They just come from a different world, and we try to explain this will not work. This is bad musicians. They cannot perform. They came live, they were singing out of tune, nobody liked it. It was just a disaster. This group made the song for the competition and never existed again after the competition. So don't do this, please. Find artists who are doing something, work with them to co-create, listen, and support what they are doing. It cannot always be exactly on the message you are looking for, but find artists who are conscious, who are, and see how you can support them. And don't make them fill in many forms and many applications and things like that. Do the work for them. Allow them to be artists. We are the bureaucracy, and they are the artists. So this is very important that we don't work with them in an incorrect way, because you will kill all of their enthusiasm, and if they're not enthusiastic, they're not going to promote it, and you're not going to achieve your objective of getting your message out there. So it's very important that we trust in that. Ask them as well how much things cost. Ask them how much things cost. Because always, we included, we also have limited budgets. We know how much things cost because we work in music, but often, and we still ask for favors and lowball people, but when there is at least an understanding, then they have the choice of whether they want to do or not. Sometimes the fee is so low and so like you're not even covering their basics, it's really insulting. So try and find the way to work with the musicians, to engage with them. Accountability Lab, they are doing this good in Nigeria and Liberia. So there are organizations who are doing this, and we want more of them. I think the more TI chapters who can collaborate with these artists, the better. It's really, we need to build up a global movement. More is more. So please, I suggest, we cannot answer everything now, but if you have more questions about collaborating, speak to the artists. I'm happy to give any information I have, but we are just constant, because I was stuck when I first started with this NGO mindset of it all has to be 1, 2, 3, 4 by the book and this and that. You have to think like an artist. If you think like an artist, then you can collaborate on a good level and create something important. But if you think like a bureaucrat, you will get bureaucratic art. Yes, small advice, but good question. Danke, Sisuam.
An empty house. Empty concert
halls. Empty concert halls, yeah.
More questions, yes, please. It was second.
Thanks. Ross Clark from the Enhancing Accountability Program. Thank you so much for an inspirational talk. I'm a firm believer that, for us to make a difference here, we have to engage in popular culture, and for me, music is the most powerful. So certainly words to my heart. My question relates to around the messaging, the framing, the promotion, and how you cut through in a very competitive marketplace, right? People are attention-starved. There's a lot of content out there. For some, it's quite dry. I think more and more people are becoming a bit politically apathetic, adults and young. So, you mentioned that the music has to speak for itself. Completely agree. But when you're framing it and you're putting it out there, often you have to touch on the messages, right? So what have you learned, artists, promoters, bureaucrats even, in terms of making it interesting, making it cool, making it cut through all the noise out there? Thanks.
It was going to be my final question, so thank you.
Well, for us, what we are trying to do at first step is really to make it like for people, so that it was like, easygoing music, that it's easy reaching people, so they don't have to overthink about anything. But also what is important for us is, as well as message, as music is a message, what we are trying to put in our music as well. So, but somehow we are just trying to create like this melodies, motifs that are just engaging, and
somehow we try to create the balance between the being really honest with the people, but also we have some, I can say it's like the hidden messages. But
like Easter eggs.
just for you to re-listen to the song and then to get into the context and then to think, wow, okay, I didn't think about it this way before.
Yeah, or
okay,
maybe this line is connected to the previous line from previous song, for example.
Yeah.
Another line from previous song, for example.
Yeah, and we think it's a really important thing for you to be successful is to have something special about you. To be really persistent in what you're doing and break the walls, literally, no matter what, no matter who, no matter where, just to break it, and that's when you become special.
Just to add on what has been said, and that's a very great question. I feel like it's a big thing as an artist. You want to communicate this important message, but at the same time, if you just go out and just lay it out there, it might lose the music. You might lose the musicality of the whole thing. So for me, I have always felt like as an artist, I have followers. I have people that love my music. They love what I do. So I like to take this serious message, and I don't deviate from what works as an artist. I know what works for me as an artist and how I do it. I want to take this serious message and incorporate it in that, rather than going out of the way and doing something that I'm also not comfortable with, because I also don't want to lose that touch with my fans. If I lose the connection, then they don't get to hear that important message I have. Because I'm compiling my albums, I have all the fun music, love songs and everything, but I also still have this anti-corruption song right in the middle of that album, rather than maybe a whole EP of anti-corruption there. It might lose some of the people. They might look at it as a different thing altogether. So as an artist, I love to preserve my artist's work, but incorporate this message in whatever I am doing, so that I don't lose my fans. I don't lose them at all, but they don't also lose that message.
I think what is important is to have a topic to speak about, but also to keep it entertaining.
Yes, yeah. It should be lovable.
I think for me, I've evolved. Sometimes I listen to my older songs and I'm like, you sound so high up there, and people don't understand what you're saying. Recently, I focus on breaking things down, like breaking the music, the lyrics, in the simplest way, so that it even gets the attention of whoever is listening first. Then they can now say, oh, what is she talking about? I started working on a song on climate justice. It was something that I've always had in my mind to do, right? And I started writing it, and I noticed that I wasn't connecting with the lyrics, so I let it go until the day that I felt a huge inspiration. I can't even explain how, like, the way the inspiration hit me. I was just playing my guitar. And as I wrote the song, I started to think about the way to make it bigger. And one of the things I decided to do was to feature kids on the track, like add the voices of kids into the track, just to give it that emotional connection. I feel like kids are a good way to educate adults. So, and the moment I did that, the moment I decided to do that, I started, more and more ideas started coming, like for the visuals, how it's going to be, just to have that emotional connection. And then, even though in listening to the lyrics, you may not hear all the, climate change jargons, you probably will find it in the visuals, right? When we shoot it, that's like the approach that I thought was best for it, because I felt like if I would put those jargons in it, I would lose people. Like in my country, people don't know a lot of. We are still trying to deal with waste management. So if I'm now saying things like CO2 emission, all those things, they'll be confused. So I had to put it in my context. Another thing that I tried to do was to put it in a language, in an indigenous language of Nigeria. But I also made it in a way that if anybody in the world listens to that song, they feel a certain emotion, right? The producer of the song is not even from my state, but he's so eager to let the song come out because of the emotional connection he feels to it, and that's what music does. So for me, I think that's a strategy that works. Emotional connection, simplicity, relatability. There's a book I read called The Addiction Formula. It's like a formula for songwriting that is like a hack. So it's almost like using familiar sounds that people think, when people hear, they think they've heard it before, essentially. And so they hear it and they're like connecting to the song without even working so hard. They're not trying so hard to be in the song, but because they feel they've heard it before, they're already listening. They're like, oh, this sounds familiar. I like what I'm hearing. And then they're listening. You're getting their attention. So for me, I think that's a formula that works very well in respect to music and sending messages.
I think what you're talking about is about associations.
Yes.
Associations that people can associate with some experiences they had before.
Yes.
And putting a complex issue in a simple word so that everybody, even if they're not a native speaker, not mother tongue language, they still can understand it.
Yeah.
Some small part of it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and also not making your craft that literal. I mean, not saying in your song, okay, this is bad, and this is good. It will be too literal, and it's not interesting when it's just so. So it's about.
You give people food for thought to think
yeah,
about
exactly,
something.
exactly.
Being creative.
Yeah, so it's. I think it's the main concept that everybody in this room is accepting and adopting. So it's Yeah,
and like you said, they're competing in the global market. So even with Fair Play, we try and look for artists who have a following, they're not just starting. They've got a performance. You have to be competitive. You have to have something to say. We see video and touring. If you can do good video and if you can do good touring, if you've got good shows, that's how you build up your fan base, and then people find you on socials or those kind of things. So I know that the Sixters have been doing great work with their videos. Rain in Sahara, they've got a video editor who's a part of the team. They're creating a new video every month, high-end videos. You don't have to have a lot of budget, but you just need somebody who knows how to make music videos, because people are consuming on TikTok, they're consuming on Instagram, a little bit on YouTube, of course. But I think it's really important as it is to focus on the music, it is to focus on the visuals. If you don't have the visuals, nobody will find you. So but at the same time, you said an important thing earlier: consistency, persistence. The ones who stay win. there is a saying, it's not so nice, but a Balkan friend told me it once, and if there are any Balkan people here, maybe you will appreciate the dark humor, but they say if you wait by the riverbank long enough, you will see the dead bodies of your enemies floating by. And this is a bit like in the music industry. A lot of people come, they try, but they are maybe very talented, but they don't stick, they don't persevere. You have to persevere, you have to keep going, you have to keep creating, even when it's difficult. And we see those bands then who take it seriously, they generally break through. You have to keep reflecting, you have to keep adjusting your art. Okay, that didn't work, let's try this, that didn't work, let's try this. But building that organic fan base, Ricardo works a lot on training young musicians as well, on how to build up their fan base, on super fans. I think we will talk more about this tomorrow as well. So that's our responsibility as an organization, to support young musicians to build up their fan bases. But they're not anti-corruption musicians. They're musicians who have social messages, and then we can give them a platform here at an anti-corruption event, and you can maybe give them platforms in your countries to spread those messages. But I think, but fundamentally they're just artists, and they are great artists. So this has to be there before anything else is happening.
Yeah, and like you said, I do give a lot of workshops to young musicians, all variety of musicians from different backgrounds. And I give a lot of branding courses, and most of the time artists find branding like a dirty word. So I rebrand it and I call it building a brand with purpose, and they love that. And I do always say, first thing you have to do is be authentic. So you have to know who you are. And better than knowing who you are is knowing why you do what you do. That's what we start. That's what we're going to do tomorrow. So just prepare for that. But then the second is you need to also be relatable. So you need to kind of understand the people that might come to your shows, and these need to always be in balance. And if you balance these two and then remain consistent, so don't all of a sudden do something very different, and it can be indeed visuals. It can be something. That's a formula that I see work. And I do see that a lot of artists that have this very strong why did it without realizing it, because it's so ingrained who they are, and they never embraced it. And when you kind of uncover it and you embrace it, it actually can become part of your brand. And I've watched all of your YouTube comments as well, and a lot of people also comment on your music stuff like, oh yeah, it's so cool, you're so inspiring, or oh yeah, this changed me in this way. You can actually embrace it and use it in that way as well. We have 10 minutes, which I would also like to give to music, but there were more questions. So now there's a sort of tricky thing. Do you feel that your question is worth more than the music? Then please ask it.
One question. No,
I'm just joking. Please, can we have one question, please?
Go ahead. Last question.
I know that you are artists for social causes, but how does corruption sound to you? Because now that I work a lot with data and I see it, I want to see that people see the networks that we're seeing with data and the impacts that they have on people's lives. And I see this network that has like these tentacles, but from your musical perspective, how does it sound to you, corruption?
It sounds like a nightmare, I would say. Yeah, it's like a really horrific thing, just like to imagine. For me, it sounds like some minor chord on piano. Some diminished minor chord on piano. Yes.
Yeah, I think for me, it's I've always looked at it as a thorn, something that should not be there, something that needs to be removed. It affects too many things. Corruption even affects corrupt people. That's how bad it is. How much more uncorrupt people? So for me, it's something that should not be there at all. Yeah.
I think for me, it's like a cancer that slowly, at first it's not very obvious, but slowly just begins to eat deep, and then before you know it, breaks completely the flow of things, the whole system. It's just really that bad.
Time for music. I think it's time for music then, but not before we give a super, super warm round of applause, because I talked about this why, and I think that I always like this statement, a person that knows its why can bear almost any how. And you see the people here, I think that's very inspiring, people that stand for something, even though it might, be scary or dangerous or any other way, but also people that flew through a night flight with no sleep, or came straight out of a plane just to come talk. And I think that also deserves a warm round of applause. And then some time for some music. You go off the stage in the music.
Great. So if our sound guys could help us quickly, like Ricardo said, they literally have just come off airplanes. Everyone came straight here. They didn't even get time to really go to the hotel. But Faith has promised us a song.
A beautiful song.
Sil might be inspired to do a song, and if the Sixters feel like something small, they can also...
In 7 minutes.
All right, we have 7 minutes, but it's the last session of the day, so we can maybe go a little bit longer, but voila, we will...
And see you on Friday, of course.
And Friday, of course, you will see the full performance. Tell your friends, tell your, your family, if you are living here. This is our live TikTok strategy. TikTok, they always tell you at the end of the video, we will have the greatest tip. And here, thank you for all of your time and attention. We appreciate all of you.
So the song that I'm going to share, it's titled Don't Run Away. And I wrote this song because I believe that all of us are leaders. So we have a duty not to run away, but to fix things. Corruption should not be fled from, but it should be fixed, corrected, not prevalent in our society at all. So don't run away. Of peace, best known for its beauty. People with a smile, but they're crying inside. It's a nation of corruption, mass looting and deception. It's like an immigration, but from heaven to hell. And I can't run away. I can't run away. Can't run away, no. Malawi is my country. I can't run away. Don't run away. Look to your left, then look to your right. Tayamba kusanka na kochokela, antu andale atinamiza. Look to your left, look to your right. Tayamba kusanka na kochokela, antu andale ati pusinza. Kaya ndiwo wako mpoto, kaya ndiwo wako mbwera, kaya kwanu ndi pakati. I grew up thinking one day things will get better. I ended up queuing for sugar, then sleeping on a petrol station. You're drinking your coffee, sitting on our billions, shopping on our taxes. Ziwambuzi ikakondwa, amalonda afika. You can't run away. You can't run away. You can't run away, no. Malawi is your country. You can't run away. Don't run away. Ziko lako Malawi, kodi umalikonda. Nangalelo bwanje ndikumamva, mai Malawi akulila. Ziko lako Malawi we, kodi umalikonda. Nangalelo bwanje ndikumamva, mai Malawi akulila. Do you really, really, really love me like you claim? Like you claim? Like you claim? Do you really, really, really love me like you claim? Like you claim? Thank you very much.
The pressure.
Look at me. I can't follow.
Faith, you made it too difficult.
Oh no. No, right.
Right. Thank you so much, Faith.
Thank
you, everyone.
That's
Would
it.
anyone else like to do anything for now, or you save it for later? You can.
I don't know. I think it's not enough time.
Yeah.
Like
Later
2
is
minutes, so
We will have
But
more
you can-
time. We are trying to steal time in the plenary, maybe tomorrow or Friday, and of course we will have the concert. So yeah, a huge thank you to all of these wonderful artists. Thank you to Ricardo, and thank you all of you.
Thank you.
God bless.